everybody. Hi. Thank you for joining me at the At Home with Melissa channel for this episode 2 of the series that we refer to as, you call these weeds. And today we're going to focus on 2 different plants that are commonly referred to as weeds by people, and it baffles my mind because weeds by definition are just plants that you have no use for. They're garbage plants. You don't want them around. But there are 2 I want to focus on today that I definitely don't see as weeds, even though they commonly are viewed as such. But we're going to go in depth in discussing the first one. As you can see, that's nettle. And the second one's wild carrots. But before we even begin, I want to give a giant shout out and a happy hello to my girl Bailey. Bailey's not only my niece, but she has been a subscriber to this channel since its inception. And I just found out the other day that in addition to that, Bailey is a loyal viewer. She watches every single episode and she anticipates the upload of each new episode as it comes out. So Bailey, thank you so much. Whenever you told me that you watched that, if I could do backflips, I'd have done them. You made my whole week, if not my whole month. Because if you're watching every episode, I know you're getting something out of this, that you're enjoying it. And that's what keeps me going. That's not just what keeps me going making new videos, but it's also what keeps me going day to day in my life. I feel really good knowing that people are out there, that I might be able to help someone, to share something someone finds useful, or even just entertaining. So Bailey, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you out there who tune in for each episode, as well as those of you who just join us from time to time. And also to those of you who are now joining us for the first time ever, I hope you like what you see today and that you decide to tune in with us from time to time, at least here in the future as well. Now on to what we're talking about today. The first thing, of course, like I said, is nettle. Nettle, commonly referred to as stinging nettle, great stinging nettle, all these things. It's an invasive plant, I'll give you that. But a weed? Really? No. See, nettle grows just about anywhere. You can find it in the woods, in fields, in ditches along the road. You can find it all over the place. And I'm not familiar with any lookalikes it has in nature, but one thing I want to make clear before we go into the episode further is that if you're collecting plants out in the wild, make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure the plant that you're picking is the plant you think you're picking. Because a lot of plants might have really good positive uses for you, might taste good, might have medicinal benefits or what have you, but they have lookalikes that occur out there that can hurt you or worse. So make sure you know what you're doing. Take a good guidebook, take someone with you who really knows their stuff. Whatever it takes, make sure you're collecting what you think you're collecting. Now to collect nettle, yeah, that can be challenging, because the thing with nettle, the reason it's called stinging nettle, is that when you come in contact with it, it stings. It stings your skin. So if you are picking it, you want to wear gloves or you want to use tools that'll keep you from coming in contact with it. Easier said than done. You're probably still going to get stung here and there because you're going to accidentally step into it, and it's just going to have a little bit of a sting. It doesn't last all that long, but it's annoying when it happens. The thing is, though, once it's been chopped up, cut up, boiled, cooked, or dried, it doesn't have the sting anymore. It won't bother you. It won't hurt you. You can then just mess with it with your bare hands. And it's so useful that I keep a couple of gallons at least on hand in my cupboard at all times. And it's been used for hundreds of years, both in textiles and as a medicine. And for textiles, what it's been used for is if you throw a bunch of nettle leaves, fresh or dried, throw them into boiling water along with cloth, it'll dye it a really deep, rich green, nettle green. And of course, the longer that you have it in the water, the more leaves you have, and the more that cloth becomes infused with that coloring, and the deeper the color will be. That is not why I keep it. I've never used it that way. I probably will someday when I just look at it sitting on the shelf and go, yeah, let's try that. But it'll be a one-off when I do it. I keep it because what it's good for is treating allergies, hay fever type allergies. And I want to make it clear that just because something has been believed in folk medicine to be true even for hundreds of years doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Pliny the Elder, way back in ancient times, Pliny the Elder put together a series of cures for different problems. And for example, one of the things he suggested, I keep looking off into the distance as I think, one of the things he suggested is that if you're choking on a piece of bread, take a little piece of bread from that same loaf and stuff it in your ear, and that'll cure your choking. Obviously, just because something's been an idea that came from ancient times doesn't mean it's really as wise as you might think. But nettle is one of those things that really is. In fact, I once found on WebMD, this is so cool, they had this list which I found and loved. And I didn't bookmark it, probably because that day I couldn't figure out how to set a bookmark. And I have been kicking myself ever since because I can't find it. And if any of you find it and you want to drop me a message in the comments telling me how I can find it again, I would so appreciate that because it was a great reference. And I'd love to have that on hand. What it was a list of all different kinds of herbs and plants that are used medicinally. And for each plant, they would tell you whether scientific studies, a lot of them have been done on these plants. And then they would go on to tell you what the results of those studies were. They would tell you, for example, that in regard to this plant, there isn't sufficient evidence to determine one way or the other whether it works for such and such. Or they would say that, okay, this plant, scientific studies show that it really doesn't do that. Any effect you're getting is placebo effect and nothing more. Or they would tell you, okay, there's been sufficient scientific study to show, and yeah, this really does do what they say it does. Nettle's one of those. It helps with hay fever allergies. You can drink 2 to 3 cups of it a day, and it'll help you to suffer less from your hay fever allergies. Now, I have allergies and asthma, and for the past several days, I have been so sick and so miserable that I haven't been able to do any videos for you in spite of really wanting to. I've just been such a mess, you wouldn't have wanted to watch me for sure. And so I take prescription medicines for my allergies, and they do help, but it just wasn't cutting it. Right now where I live, we have all kinds of weeds and grasses and things that are all in flower, all producing pollens, and I only have mild allergies to any one of them, but when you combine them, it has a cumulative effect, and I've been just sick. And if you suffer from allergies and you think that in recent years you've been sicker than you had been prior, it's not just your imagination. It might be because of the increasing levels of CO2 in the environment. Studies show conclusively that when you increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, the amount of pollen plants produce increases exponentially in comparison with the increase in the amount of CO2. So these plants are producing more pollen than they used to. So you probably are sicker. And there are studies that show that more people are suffering from allergies than ever have. The incidence of asthma attacks are rising. The number of people per capita in any population suffering from asthma is also rising. And that might be part of the reason. So this can really help. My medicine wasn't enough. My prescription medicine wasn't enough to make me well enough to talk to you. So this morning I got up sick again, and I thought, oh, I'm so desperate for relief from this, and I couldn't think of what to do. I thought, what am I going to do? I had forgotten about my nettle. I hadn't drunk it in a while, and I thought, oh, finally it occurred to me, nettle tea. And I'm telling you what, I was suffering through the morning, and I had taken my medicine. So then I drank the nettle tea, and a half hour later, I felt amazingly improved. And that's the only reason I can talk to you guys. Seriously, eyes streaming, nose coughing, wheezing, sneezing. It was horrible. And there would have been no way I could have done a video for you. So this really helped. And when you make nettle tea, what you do is, if you're using the dried leaves, because they're more concentrated, the water's been dried out of them, so the leaves are concentrated, the active compounds in it that help you are more concentrated. All you need is about a tablespoon of it to a cup of water to make your tea. If you're using fresh leaves, you want to go with 2 to 3 tablespoons worth. And what I use, these are really cool. And you can see, I have nettle tea in here right now. These little pots, and you can buy them in different sizes and made out of different materials. I have the heat-resistant glass, and these are stovetop teapots that come with infusers that just sit in them. And they're nice and big, and that's what I like about them. These infusers are nice and big, no matter what you're doing, whether it's regular tea or an herbal infusion. You have enough room for the amount of leaf you want in there, and you don't need to worry. If you use like a little tea ball, first of all, you don't have much room. You have this tiny little space to get the amount of leaf you want in there. And quite often, that's not as much as I want. In addition to which, every time I don't know about you, every time I use tea balls, it seems like they come open in my drink, and I have leaves all through it, and I have to pitch it. You don't have that with this. And it's so easy to empty and clean. Dishwasher safe. You empty these out. You can find them online. I've never seen them in just regular department stores. I would imagine you can find this kind of stovetop teapot with the built-in infusers at specialty kitchen shops, but they would charge you a lot more than you'd want to spend, or that you need to spend on something like that. Just go online and do a search for stovetop teapots, and you'll find these. And like I said, you don't have to get glass. They come in metals and things like that too, but I like the glass ones just for aesthetic purposes. I think they're cute. And I do love the infusers. They're easy to clean. And when I dump out the leaves, I feed them to the worms or chuck them in my compost pile, so those don't go to waste either. And the nettle tea, a lot of people like it and a lot of people don't. I like the taste of it. Yeah, I might forget about it in my cupboard for a while, but you'd be amazed at the kinds of things that I forget for a while that I really like. And I like the taste of the nettle tea. And with some wild plants that have medicinal properties, you do have to be concerned. You can poison yourself if you ingest too much. I've never heard of anyone drinking too much nettle tea. I've had times where I drink tons of it because I like the taste. It's not going to hurt you, but make sure you know whether a plant will or won't before you go using it. For example, digitalis is taken from foxglove, I think. Pretty flower, but tiny bit of it can poison you and kill you. It will stop your heart. And so just because something is in a plant and might have medicinal uses doesn't mean it's safe to use in any quantity as compared with over-the-counter things or prescription things. Most over-the-counter and prescription medicines were originally taken directly from plants, and some of them still come from plants. Others, they've isolated the active compounds and now reproduce them in laboratories, just making those chemicals in a little mix, but they come from plants. The medicine does. If you can overdose on the medicine, you can overdose on the plants. Nettle, nah. Nope, nettle doesn't hurt you. Not that I know of. And like I said, it's been drunk for centuries. I drink it sometimes in large quantities. Doesn't hurt you at all. I don't know if you're going to like the taste or not. I don't like chamomile tea. A lot of people really like that. I don't drink it. I keep chamomile on hand because I do like using it as a tea that I make to use as a hair rinse, or putting a tea bag of dried chamomile in a tub. It softens the hair, softens the skin. I like it for that, but I don't like the taste of it. I do like the taste of this. So you might agree with me on that, you might not. And something really kind of cool is that I saw a documentary series that is available on YouTube, or at least was until recently. I would imagine it still is. And it is hosted by a man named James Wong. He is an ethnobotanist from Britain, and he did a documentary series for the BBC titled Grow Your Own Medicine. What made me think of it is that he did feature nettles in one episode. And he's a really personable guy, seems to feel really comfortable with the camera, really comfortable with other people, friendly, pleasant to watch, and he gives a lot of useful and interesting information, not only on the historical uses of different plants, but on the kinds of chemical compounds the plants contain that science recognizes as doing certain things. And he makes, I just touched a plant that scared me. He makes different recipes, his own recipes, and I think he shared a chicken soup recipe that includes goji berries that was actually his grandmother's. And I like his recipes so much so I've bought a couple of his books. So that might be something you might like to check out at some point too. But yeah, nettle tea, good for you. Really, really good for you. Useful, not a weed at all. Harvest it, keep it, put it to good use, share it with your friends and family. Get those people with their runny eyes and their runny noses to feeling a little bit better. You might really, really be pleased. So if you ever have any doubts though about anything that you're using or want to use medicinally, run it by your doctor first, okay? Don't just go off trying things left and right. Make sure that it's something your doctor feels is safe for you, okay? Let's go on to wild carrots. Oh, I love them. I'm allergic to the cultivated carrots, the nice beautiful orange carrots, and they make me wheeze and they make me break out, and so I can only eat a couple of bites of them, but I love carrots. And I don't react to wild carrots. I have allergic reactions to the cultivated ones. The wild ones I don't. So those I do harvest those. And basically wild carrots, we're going to go and we're going to look at some because I have some growing on my property. Come on, let's go. Here we are. These are wild carrots. And these are the plants that we're just going to touch on quickly because there's not a whole lot you need to say. They're pretty, and you'll hear people calling them Queen Anne's lace. And here's what the flower looks like. Breeze just picked up just in time. Okay, now some people think that there's a little spot in the middle of Queen Anne's lace, but not with the wild carrots. That's not necessarily true. In fact, the flowers from the Queen Anne's lace and the wild carrots look so similar. They've got these nice, pretty, let me get a good look. Nice, pretty leaves. See those? They look like, well, basically, they look just like, there we go, got it in focus. They look like the leaves from the cultivated carrots. But experts can even have a hard time telling the flowers apart in the wild. And the carrots, if you eat them, you eat the roots, and they're good for you. If you eat Queen Anne's lace, it's bad for you. So if you can't tell the plants apart to look at them, how do you pick? You know, how do you know if you're going to have something that's yummy or something that's going to hurt you? Easy. You dig it up, and if you've got a little bit of it, you probably have a lot of it. Digging some up isn't going to hurt it. And you smell the roots. The roots of the wild carrots smell just like cultivated carrots, and that's how you know. So if you dig them up and you don't smell that carroty smell off the roots, don't eat them. Better safe than sorry. Leave them alone. It's not going to hurt you to touch them, but you don't want to ingest them. And if you smell that carroty smell, you know you have wild carrots, and they are safe to eat, and they're going to be delicious. The thing is, the roots will sometimes get a fibrous outer coating, and yeah, you really can't eat that too well. But you can kind of peel that fibrous coating away, and the center of that root will probably still be that nice, juicy, wonderful, crunchy, carroty thing. And I love them. I love them. So those are the 2 flowers and plants that we wanted to cover today on episode number 2 of You Call These Weeds. And I hope that you're able to make use of some of this information and that you found it entertaining and interesting. And until the next time, just enjoy anything you're doing. And I hope that hope you decide to spend time with us again in the future. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.